Here's something worth thinking about. Two people, both have exactly $5,000 saved in the bank. 5 years from now, one of them is still sitting on roughly that same figure. The other has turned that money into a system that works for them. What's the difference? Not intelligence, not luck. The decision they made with that money the moment they had it. Right now, inflation in the US is running around 3 to 4% annually. Credit card APRs have crossed 20% on average, and yet millions of people are letting their savings sit completely idle. $5,000 is not life-changing money, but the strategy behind it can be. This video is about exactly that: protection, growth, and leverage. Let's get into it. Most people treat their savings account like a wealth-building tool. It isn't. Savings protect you, they don't grow you, and the sooner you internalize that distinction, the clearer your financial decisions become. Here's the hard math. Even the best high-yield online accounts today sit around 4 to 5% annually. That sounds decent until you remember inflation has been averaging 3 to 4% in recent years. You're barely standing still. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 has delivered average nominal returns of roughly 7 to 10% annually over the long term. That gap, compounded over 20 years, is the difference between financial comfort and financial freedom. So what is cash actually for? It's your buffer against chaos, and it needs to be structured. The first layer is a starter emergency fund, $1,000 to $2,000, to handle minor shocks without reaching for a credit card. The second layer is a full reserve, 3 to 6 months of living expenses, or up to 12 months if you work in a volatile industry. Nearly 60% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing. That means most people are one bad month away from derailing everything. The best places to keep this money: high-yield online savings accounts, money market funds, or short-term US Treasury bills. Liquid, low risk, and reasonably protected against inflation. Once this foundation is solid, every other financial decision you make gets sharper. Before you invest a single dollar, there's one question you need to answer honestly. Do you have high-interest debt? Because if you do, and you're putting money into the market while carrying a credit card balance at 25% APR, you're not building wealth, you're bleeding out slowly. Here's the math most people ignore. Paying off a debt with a 25% interest rate is equivalent to a guaranteed 25% return on that money. No market volatility, no risk, guaranteed. The S&P 500 averages 7 to 10% annually over the long term, and that's before taxes. High-interest debt beats that return every single time, just in reverse. Not all debt deserves the same urgency, though. Credit cards, payday loans, and high-rate personal loans should be eliminated aggressively. On the other hand, a fixed mortgage at 3% or federal student loans under 5% operate under a different logic: the concept of arbitrage. If your debt costs 4% and your investments historically return 8%, carrying that debt while investing makes mathematical sense. The key word is significantly. If the gap isn't clear, pay the debt first. There's also something that numbers alone don't capture. The psychological weight of debt affects how you make decisions, how you sleep, and how clearly you think about your financial future. Eliminating high-interest debt doesn't just improve your cash flow, it removes a constant mental drag. And that clarity is itself an accelerator for everything that comes next. Before we go further, if you are enjoying this video so far, consider giving it a like. It really helps the channel and tells YouTube that you're interested in this kind of content. Now let's continue. Once your emergency fund is in place and high-interest debt is gone, the dynamic shifts entirely. You're no longer playing defense. Now the goal is to put capital to work and understand the difference between money that sits and money that compounds. There's a concept worth grasping early: real return versus nominal return. If your investment grows 6% in a year but inflation runs at 3%, your real return is 3%. Ignoring that distinction creates the illusion of growth without real purchasing power expansion. This is why chasing high nominal numbers without accounting for inflation gives you a distorted picture of actual wealth creation. Let's take the S&P 500 again as a reference. After adjusting for inflation, long-term real returns tend to land closer to 5 to 7%. That real return is what actually matters, because it represents purchasing power you're genuinely gaining. And that real return, compounded consistently, is more powerful than most people appreciate. $5,000 invested today at 5% real return becomes approximately $13,000 in 20 years without adding a single dollar. That number alone isn't life-changing, but it illustrates something important. Time is doing work you're not doing. Now add just $100 a month to that same investment. Over the same 20 years, you'd end up with roughly $54,000 in real purchasing power. Same starting point, same return. The only difference is a modest, consistent contribution. For someone starting out, the practical framework is straightforward. Open a brokerage account on a zero commission platform, Fidelity, Schwab, or similar. Automate contributions so the decision is removed from your hands every month. Then start learning. 15 to 30 minutes a day on stocks, ETFs, REITs, and how markets work. Financial literacy compounds just like money does. As for allocation, think in layers rather than one single bet. A reasonable beginner framework might look something like this. Roughly 40% in diversified ETFs, tracking the S&P 500 or total market. Low fees, broad exposure, historically reliable. Around 20% in individual quality stocks of companies you understand and believe in long term. About 15% in REITs, which give you real estate exposure without the capital requirements of buying property. Around 10% in an alternative asset like Bitcoin, not as speculation, but as a non-correlated store of value with a fixed supply in an era of monetary expansion. The remaining 15% kept liquid for opportunities or short-term needs. This isn't a prescription, it's a framework for thinking. Risk tolerance, age, and income stability should all influence how you adjust these proportions. One principle that holds across all of them: dollar cost averaging. Investing a fixed amount regularly, regardless of market conditions, removes the trap of trying to time the market, which even professional fund managers consistently fail to do. Bear markets happen every 5 to 7 years on average. The investors who stay and win, the ones who panic sell lock-in losses and miss the recovery. The stock market isn't the only place capital can work for you, and for some people, a more tangible, hands-on approach actually produces faster early returns, while building real-world business instincts at the same time. The fundamental shift here is learning to see every purchase through one question: does this put money in my pocket or take money out? That's the line between an asset and a liability. A car you use for rideshare income is an asset. A car you finance to sit in a driveway is a liability. Same object, completely different financial reality. With $5,000, there are concrete income-producing paths that don't require a brokerage account. Equipment rental is one of the most underestimated. Event equipment, tables, chairs, tents, lighting, can be rented out repeatedly for weddings, parties, and corporate events. Landscaping and power washing equipment serve a market with consistent local demand. Photography and video gear can be rented to creators and small businesses on platforms like Fat Llama or KitSplit. In well-executed cases, the initial investment can be recovered within 3 to 6 months. The gig economy has expanded the infrastructure for this kind of micro-entrepreneurship significantly. Demand is accessible, transactions are digital, and the barrier to entry is low. What makes this model compelling isn't just the return, it's the ceiling. Market investments are capped by market performance. A business built on skill and capital has uncapped upside. That asymmetry is worth taking seriously. Here's something most financial content won't tell you directly. $5,000 is a starting point, not a solution. The real game is building the capacity to invest consistently over time, and that means addressing both sides of the equation. Not just where your money goes, but how much of it you're generating. Financial freedom doesn't come from a single lump sum. It comes from 3 things working together: growing your income, increasing your savings rate, and expanding your asset base. Remove any one of those, and the process stalls. On the income side, the options are more accessible than ever. Freelancing, selling digital products, offering online services. These aren't passive income myths. They're real income streams that people are building right now, often starting nights and weekends before transitioning full-time. Beyond side hustles, career leverage is frequently overlooked. Skill stacking, combining 2 or 3 complementary abilities that are rare together, commands a premium in today's labour market. A project manager who understands data analysis and can communicate clearly to executives earns significantly more than one who can only do one of those things. Certifications, negotiation, and strategic job moves can produce salary increases that no investment return can match in the short term. Here's what most people miss. In the early stages of wealth building, your savings rate matters more than your income level. Take 2 people. The first earns $50,000 a year and consistently invests 10% of it. That's $417 a month. The second earns $70,000, but only invests 5%, $292 a month. After 5 years at a 5% real return, the first person has accumulated roughly $28,000. The second, despite the higher salary, has around $19,500. Fast forward to 10 years, and that gap widens sharply, approximately $64,500 versus $45,000. The first person now has enough for a solid down payment on a property, seed capital for a business, or a portfolio generating meaningful passive income. The second person is still playing catch-up, with a higher salary. It's worth noting that these projections assume static contributions with no salary growth or increased investment amounts over time, meaning the real difference could be even more significant. The machine that builds wealth isn't your income, it's the percentage of it you consistently deploy. But numbers alone don't explain why some people stay consistent while others don't. Behind all of this is something deeper than strategy. The people who build lasting wealth don't just change their habits, they change how they see themselves. The shift from being someone who spends to someone who allocates capital is an identity shift. And identity, more than any tactic, determines long-term financial behavior. Building capital is only half the equation. Keeping it is the other half, and it's where a surprising number of people fail. The first threat is deception. The financial world is full of promises that exploit exactly the kind of ambition this video is trying to build. Guaranteed monthly returns, no risk high yield, exclusive investment opportunities. These are red flags, not opportunities. The SEC has increased enforcement against fraudulent schemes significantly in recent years, but they keep evolving. If something sounds too clean, it almost certainly is. The second threat is your own body. Medical debt remains one of the leading causes of personal bankruptcy in the United States. Health isn't separate from your financial plan, it's central to it. Your ability to earn, think clearly, and execute consistently depends directly on your physical and mental resilience. The third threat is impatience. Markets are volatile. There will be periods where your portfolio drops 20, 30, even 40%. The investors who treat emotional regulation as a skill, not just a virtue, are the ones who stay in long enough to win. Diversification, adequate insurance, and a long-term perspective aren't exciting strategies. They're just the ones that work. The $5,000 isn't powerful because of the amount. It's powerful because of what it represents. Discipline, optionality, and the willingness to think strategically about your future. The sequence is simple. Protect yourself first, eliminate financial drag, put capital to work, build income streams, and guard what you've built. That's not a one-time action. It's a way of operating. Most people never start because they're waiting for a bigger number. But financial freedom doesn't begin with a large sum. It begins the moment money stops being idle and starts being intentional. And that moment is always right now. If you found this valuable, take a second to hit the like button. It really supports the channel. And if you want to keep watching more content on finance, investing, and building real wealth, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.